Okay, welcome to Autocar Professional's annual Women to Watch initiative. It's a panel discussion where we highlight leading women in the automotive industry. Now, this industry has been largely known to be a male domain, but that's changing, and that's really what we're here to discuss today. I have a very, very eminent panel with me. We have Shrawani Rai, who's Head of Engineering Platform and Ecosystems Autonomous Mobility Continental India. Welcome, Shrawani. We have Kausalya Nandakumar, who's CEO, Mahindra Electric Automobiles. Welcome, Kausalya. Shuba Kumar, who's MD, Natesan Synchrocones, and Chairperson, ACMA Southern Region. Welcome. We have Garima Mishra, MD, Group Landmark. Akshima Ghate, who's MD, RMI India. Anju Bhadoria, who's HR Director and Country HR, Marelli, India. Welcome, ladies. It is really a pleasure to have all of you here with me today. And of course, I think this is a topic we all love to discuss, women in the automotive industry. And it's really a pleasure to see so many of you here in leading roles. I think it's changed. It's no longer just a male domain. There's so many more women, at least for me in the automotive journalism world, I see so many more women than when I started off. So Anju, I think since you're in the world of HR and you're responsible for hiring, tell us, are you seeing more and more women taking an interest in this domain? Is it changing? And of course, diversity has also become such a big topic these days.
Yeah. Am I audible fine to you, Renuka?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So absolutely. I think the first thing that I want to say is that talent really can't be segregated based on gender, and that's the reality. Like any other industry, automotive also looks for good talent. And if you look at the data, the number of engineering graduates, especially in STEM, is much higher among the women candidates than the men. So definitely the diversity ratio is increasing. If you look at the past 30 years, the numbers have been constantly increasing. What I think is that we can hire and attract more talent if we start communicating to this talent pool slightly better. For example, sometimes, some example that I can give you out of my experience, when we use words like aggressive, competitive, these terms talk in some scenarios better to men. Instead, if we use terms like collaborative, commitment, then women talent relates better to these. So if we make some small such tweaking, we start communicating better that it's more of misconception. You don't really have to know your car in and out, but you need to have passion for engineering for you to excel. We will see, I think, if we do more focus on that, we will only have more women rising and shining. And like you rightly said, many of the role models are there internationally, locally. All the co-panelists today are the examples. So I think if we create more of those role models, we will only see constant increase in those numbers.
Yeah, definitely. Akshima, you deal a lot between, government and the industry. And, it's a role where I think a lot of people expect to see, a lot of male domination. Is it tough? Do you face challenges or has it been easy now with times changing?
Thanks, Renuka. I think very timely debate, and happy Women's Day to everybody. I think just to respond to the question, if I've faced challenge or perhaps if I've observed, I would say fortunately I haven't faced challenges in terms of dealing with the policy ecosystem, even to deal with the industry ecosystem. Biases, yes, when it comes to technology know-how, you definitely have, I wouldn't say men, I would say people around you who would doubt your ability to understand technology and to be able to give, policy advice around technology. And I think it is not going to be simple in terms of addressing those biases in a very short period of time. There is a legacy with which we are coming, which has been, which has socio cultural, economic roots in terms of how women have made their way out there. There was a very interesting research piece I had, read long time back, about the whole idea of gender and its linkage or its relationship with mobility just started in 1980s. We were not even thinking about it. It's very nascent how we connect gender and mobility. And at that time, a lot of our community was like, where is the missing half of human population when it comes to mobility, when we talk about product design, when we talk about how women receive and perceive mobility and mobility products? We have evolved, I think, but it will take us a lot of time in terms of giving the due space and respect to women in terms of how they can contribute. We've seen that evolution, but specifically when it comes to technology, I think there is more work to be done to be seen, women to be seen as equal, and hence create that kind of an ecosystem, whether it is in terms of employer policies, whether it is in terms of government policies, whether it is in terms of how women founders can be at par with their male counterparts in the space. But yes, in the policy ecosystem, I feel I've been very fortunate. I have had the opportunity of working with really great partners in the ecosystem of policy think tanks, with government, where there is acknowledgement, there is respect, and I would say very, very limited bias, perhaps as compared to the hardcore, part of automotive sector.
Yeah, so a lot of you face this, yeah? Kausalya, Shuba, I think Garima, do you all also face the fact that, there is a bias when it comes to women in the technical aspect of things? I know I did initially. I think there was some skepticism to, a woman doing hardcore car reviews. There probably was that skepticism initially, but I guess once people know, that kind of went away for me. So have you also faced it, and do you think that that is the essence of the problem?
I think it's an interesting debate, honestly, Renuka, because when you look at inherent biases, like Akshima mentioned, I think it comes from deep-rooted social, economic grounding and the conditioning that we've had as a generation of people have gone through. So I think there's deeper roots to the bias than what's actually said out in the open. I also think that at a very fundamental level for all women and maybe for all humankind, meritocracy was always an important element to be in a role and do some work. So from that point of view, yes, there is skepticism. There is skepticism on all kinds of, I think, spectrums, but women want to be able to establish themselves through the sheer merit to which they, because of which they come onto that role. So I think that toss-up of dealing with that bias, but wanting to establish yourself as deserving of that is the whole conundrum with which we live. Having said that, I think, while historically it's been an underrepresented sector of people, it's improving. And we have, on this panel, we have role models. We have an increasing pool of women. And to me, honestly, it's a pipeline issue, right? It's not just about women in leadership, which is, of course, important to showcase where you could get to. But it's also about constantly nurturing the pipeline right from young engineering STEM talent all the way up to CEOs and leadership positions. So as the public sector and public policy frameworks come in, I think the private sector also has a big role now to play in terms of how they nurture the talent pipeline across the spectrum. So yeah, it's an interesting space, and I think generation of women to be in where you're in some way some torchbearers to the future.
Absolutely. Garima, you've been there for a very, very long time in the industry. You were going to say something, so I'm going to let you just say it.
No, go ahead. You complete your question. No,
but carry on. First, you make your point, and then I'll ask.
Okay, so just to add to what Kausalya said, that she's right, that it's more ground based, this bias which is there. Like I often think about it, that why do parents want to buy dolls for their daughters and cars or planes for their sons? Why is that bias there? I mean, it has to stop from that point. But having said that, at my workplace or at my business, I think barring one or two times, I've really had it very, very easy and very nice. We've had some of the guys, I've had some general managers, service, who probably said that, madam should go back home and cook. She's better off doing that rather than running a dealership. But yes, you have those kind of people as well. And I don't blame them. It's about the upbringing. It's about us as parents. Why do we want to discriminate between blue and the pink? I don't understand that. We have to start from that level. If we can do that, trust me. I mean, we all know that any car, any vehicle does not say that I have to be driven by a man or a woman. It is just in our mind, our social thinking, our upbringing, which is making that, it's discriminating. That is what I wanted to say. And I also want to add to this, I was just reading up this very, very nice article, and it moved me. I mean, there is a district in Tamil Nadu, Krishnagiri, and Ola and Tata started their factories there. And the kind of change that they've been able to bring, there has been an 89% increase in women enrolling for polytechnic and graduation courses. The marriage age has increased from 14 to 21 in 2 years. Women are more independent. They are being respected. They are financially independent. So that is the kind of thing that's happening. So the change is happening. It's begun. We've scratched the surface. But I really feel we are on the right track. And if we all think collectively, work collectively towards this, I think there's going to be a change.
I completely agree. This morning I was asked to speak on something else about Women's Day and, challenges and biases. And I think something that's always occurred to me is, as career women, when we go off chasing a career, we always carry that guilt of what we've left behind at home. But then that's our guilt. And, while talking today and making the points, I always wondered that why are only we carrying that guilt? Why don't men carry that guilt when they're going off and chasing their careers, So I think, like you said, rightly so, it's years and years and years of conditioning that we face, that this is our role and that is their role. And I think that's changing slowly. The world is definitely changing. There are more and more women in all kinds of roles, leave alone just the automotive industry, women chasing careers, women CEOs of companies. And I think, the conditioning, the core conditioning, even the fact that women can't drive, that's old conditioning, right, is something that we have to change. ACMA, again, another area where, it was predominantly male, dominated, or components. It's always been seen as a male dominated area. Have you ever faced these challenges or biases, especially as chairperson, often it happens that we get to a role and sometimes people don't tend to take us seriously, till they realize that, actually this works.
Yeah, I think the auto component industry is certainly changed over the last few decades. I think today, if you see our national president is a woman, that's a huge step for the auto component industry. I think we are very. I think we must also give good credit to the men who have supported this change to happen.
Correct.
And I think these biases can be overcome if we could, work through with logic and with clear explanations, rather than sitting behind a gender bias story. And if we can cross that, I think the acceptance for women is very good. And we've seen that across the industry. So I think the auto component industry is, yes, while it's quite male dominated, we have a number of women CEOs in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I think it's a lot of it is in our own minds. I think I'm always the devil on these biased discussions, because I always feel that, we don't need to create these separate cubicles and allotments for ourselves. I think equality is more a state of our own mind rather than anything else outside. And I think, women, once they come into the workforce and the workplace, they do just as well as anybody. And it should be talent, like you all rightly said, more than gender that actually has a role to play. Even in the engineering workforce, I think, Shrawani, we're seeing more and more women now coming in, where that fear was for women on shop floors. I think a lot of companies have really, made an effort to get more and more women out there on their shop floors, more and more women into engineering roles, and of course, more and more women leading the way in innovation. The other day, I had someone tell me that, after getting so many women onto my workforce, I just realized how much more organized they are and how much more quickly everything goes, So I guess there's a hidden pool of talents that we have that was never really highlighted. Shrawani, would you like to say something on that when you work with women versus like a team of men?
Yeah, I think one of the factors influencing women participation is the right skill, I would say. And the other one is the mentorship and guidance and having the right role models. When we're talking about, I can't stress enough on having the right skill, may it be any field, may it be the auto field or the male dominant field or any field. It's about having access to higher education and constantly developing your skills, skilling, upskilling, reskilling, and that is the need of the hour. Staying relevant is the need of the hour. It's not about just the gender. And the other one would be to stay relevant and be relevant in any industry is a focus on mentorship and guidance. I think though we have a whole lot of STEM students coming out, the number of people, it's around 35% of STEM students in higher education, but that translates to only 14% of scientists, engineers, and technologists, I would say. And I think with proper guidance, this can be influenced in a positive way. And lastly, I think I would want to say that the need for role models also in this industry, though we have about 10% of Fortune 500 CEO jobs, the underrepresentation in leading positions could impact the visibility of role models and influence career progression. This again is about mentoring the budding leaders and developing right skills to be ready to take up leading roles when the opportunity opens up. So all in all, it's about irrespective of the field, how relevant you are in this particular industry is what matters.
I completely agree with you. We have a wonderful set of role models here, I think, on this panel leading the way. And I think the job is for us as well as women to mentor more and more women as we encounter them in our industries, and I think help promote them. At least that's the way that I view it a lot of the time. But I think we've all seen that times have changed. There are a lot of women driving tech innovation and getting recognized. And I think even end consumer, where we used to see ads that were focused in the automotive industry largely towards men, we're seeing it changing. A lot of even marketing, the way the automotive industry is being marketed is now, quite gender equal. Where ads would, position a car as a male thing. Now, people are realizing that mostly women make that decision at home, no matter what, So I think things are changing. I'm going to throw the discussion open to you, ladies, as to what you think, the industry really needs to do to have us stop having this discussion, actually. Why should this even be a discussion is something that I think. What are the changes that we need to see according to each one of you?
Renuka, I was also thinking about the point that you made earlier and just wanted to add in, and I think it leads into this question, which is this whole debate on equality, right? And there's a lot of element of equal rights. And I think in the last decade or so, the conversations have moved to equity rather than equality. Because when you go into an equality debate, it's about giving the same thing to everyone, whether it's skill or access, irrespective of the contextual reality from where they come. Equity is so much more an important conversation because there are social and economic realities from where people come into the workforce. So taking on what Shrawani was talking about, right? Access to talent, access to education, equal access to education may be a good way to start, but also ensuring that there could be a disproportionate access in certain cases if the context is very different. So I think the conversation of women wanting equality should move to women wanting equity so that we get what we need to progress. And that's true for everyone who wants to walk into a workforce, etc. So I think the narrative, when will this stop, right? And I I keep having this debate in my head. Is it a great thing to be invited or not? And that's why the merit element was always the topmost thing, I think, for all of us, that we're here we just happen to be women, but we're here by our own right of what we've achieved. So I think equity is the conversation to have going forward, which is what do you need in order to be successful? And because there are certain roles which are, really native to women, how do you kind of create policies and guidelines and infrastructural support to enable that? So I was like what Shubha talked about and others about this whole revolution that happens, right? When you educate a girl, you end up educating the whole family. Having worked in that sector for some time, if you're able to get women empowered and give them access to economic freedom, it actually unlocks social freedom on so many levels. So maybe the conversation now is pivoting to how do we give different things to different people in order to bring everyone up and get the economic indicators moving up. And there, an underrepresented part of the society should be given maybe something disproportionate to start with to get them to the same level as others.
I completely agree. Yeah, I think some of you have some things to add. Yeah.
So what I wanted to say, Renuka, was that women also need to understand their power. I have seen this a bit of an imposter syndrome which women sometimes have, wherein they just feel that they're scared of the power, the success that they get. They don't attribute their own skills to it. They feel that it's possibly because I got lucky or someone got kind to me, and that's really not required, right? I mean, I also happen to chair the Women in FADA vertical, where we have close to 100 women who are members of it. Most of them are doing great jobs in running dealerships in a very different way, maybe looking after one function or the other. There's so many of them who are just handling the workshops. It's amazing to see the number of women who are handling workshops there, and remarkably, wonderfully. But when it comes to taking the limelight, when it comes to being the dealer principal, when it comes to being there in the front, they shy off. Why? Why do they shy? Why are they so apprehensive of coming in the forefront? So that is something, when I always talk to them, that if you will not do it, other women will not get encouraged. Please be proud of your achievements. Be proud of them and go bang on. I mean, it's all right. You can also have as good a discussion with an OEM as your male counterpart can. It's all about your confidence from within, which can make the change.
I agree. Akshima, you had something to say. I think you were beginning to say something.
Yeah, just adding to the points, Renuka, to the question you said, what we need to be doing to stop this conversation. I think just in our own sphere of influence as leaders, as managers, I think one critical thing that we need to do, despite our gender, whether I'm a male, female, leader or not, I think I need to lead by example. And that has, in my sphere of influence, a lot of impact. The way I would treat people in my team, if from that perspective of equity, just kind of, takes that message from that little team to beyond another team to maybe at homes as well. I think, so leading by example, how I treat promotions, how I treat hiring, how I treat, exposure opportunities, business travel opportunities. I think the moment I start thinking, oh, you cannot go on a business travel because, I've lost the battle there. So I think very critical that, leaders and managers embrace very naturally, and if not naturally, by training, how we kind of, lead and show the way to our teams. I think the second very critical thing is to get into a notion of flexibility. I think for many, many decades, the way we work, it is so rigid that it hasn't ever made room for women to be able to contribute to the fullest. It's not really about just joining a team or joining workforce. It's really, can I stay in that workforce after 3 years when I choose to be a mother, or I have to support, the family in a different way. So I think it becomes very critical that our workplaces, our work environments are flexible in terms of addressing the needs that anybody can have. Why just women?
Yeah. Anju, you wanted to say something.
I think, first of all, fantastic views. And when you said that, why are we talking about it? My personal view is I think it is good that we are talking about it because, of course, the time will come, then maybe we don't have to talk about it few years down the line. But based on our current numbers, we still need to talk more and more about it. And even if we can inspire some women out there, it is good. It is going to help. With respect to your question on what changes, I think automotive industry, in my view, is already razor sharp in not only focusing on attracting, but also if you see the focus on building the leadership pipeline. If I talk of Marelli itself, the year-on-year increase in number of women in leadership is quite high. In just last year, we have increased 4% women in the leadership, and we are not doing it just to show it or just to the objective is very clear. When we have more women, there is more focus on innovation, there is more focus on investing into R&D, and that's why companies who are doing it, they are doing it for the progress. I want to talk about the importance of these sessions or these communities that I think that I believe in and this I say based on my experience of talking to several women. There is a lot of power in building alliances, building these networking. I think my co-panelists spoke about imposter syndrome. This is very much true because a lot of women second guess themselves if they have some doubts or if they have, I think they fear in maybe not all, but in general, compared to our male counterparts, there is some apprehension or fear in taking risks. When we come together in these groups and talk about it, when we see your videos. So Renuka, I bought my Jeep Compass when I saw your car review, for example.
That's great to hear.
So these are the examples that are
I'm
going.
another one. I bought my car based on Renuka's review, so +1 to that.
Renuka, you're very, very important.
I think people, all
Garima,
men
for
and
you,
women both
they're all buying the cars from you guys.
So I think that's also true. When women buyers, they like to talk to women dealers. So both Renuka, Garima, you both are really inspiring others. Coming back to my point, I think it's good that we are coming together, talking about it. We are building the community. We are giving the examples that can inspire women I'm not saying there is no challenge in the work, in my view. The challenge is only in removing that stigma. Even if there is male dominance, that is only specific to shop floors. And I think some of the co-panelists spoke about Ola, a few examples where the shop floors are also women-driven, heavily women-driven, because they have done things right. Be it the infrastructure of policies, and not only for women, it's for both men and women who need flexibility, who need that infrastructure. But of course, women do need more infrastructural support because we need to know, currently in India, we are at a birth rate of more than 2 per woman. So we need to be cognizant of these things. We need to have organizations giving importance to build that infrastructure that can support women having kids, families having kids. So that's the point that I wanted to make. So I think it is good that we are talking about it. It is good that we are walking by or talking by example. We are inspiring other ladies, and we have to do more and more of that.
So 2 points that come out of this for me. I think the first one being, I completely agree with this imposter syndrome. We ran a series of drive events for women to teach them advanced driving skills, handbrake turns, and let them really have a great time behind the wheel. Funny story, an Ola driver from Ghate emerged as one of the best drivers that we saw across the country, and she was this shy little girl. But most of the women who came there, and I did this across the country, the first thing that they told me was, we're so glad you're having this as women only, otherwise we might have been scared to come. Yeah. And that really shocked me because that fear of failure when it's a platform where there are more men, I think that is what we need to counter. You'll rise, you'll fail, whether it's having women around you or men around you, it's fine. I mean, why be afraid of that barrier. If people scoff at you, doesn't matter, get up and go for it again. That's the way that I look at it. And I think that's what we need to counter in our minds more and more, along the way, just to see that, like you said, the belief in ourselves is more, I think, more important than anything else. And the belief that you can stand up and just be the same as anybody else in that room, and their point or your point might be equally important. So I think those are the things that we really, have to address, and we have to encourage more women to believe in themselves. And that's what I intend to do when I go out with these drive programs, etc. Garima, I was going to ask you, a lot of people say, again, women feel comfortable, talking to more women. So I think that, again, is, somewhere in our mind, a level that we see and we have to counter, I think we have to make those changes for ourselves. So do you think that we need training programs, or we need kind of mentoring programs, not training, I would say mentoring programs, where I've heard, women in boardrooms don't get up and speak as much. I heard that the other day when I was in a discussion with, now with diversity on boards. So do you think there needs to be programs which address this issue?
Surely, because see, as I was telling you that, about these women that we have in the vertical and that we've been talking to, we've been taking them out for training programs, things have changed. I have seen the kind of participation that I have seen from these women in our summits, auto summits, in dealer conferences has gone up remarkably. And I'm very sure that, because of the hand-holding, because of talking to them, because of telling them that you are wonderful people. All you need to know is understand your own power, accept it, love it, cherish it, come out with it. That's all. That's all that they need to know. They don't need to be trained on skills. They know their job. They really do it very, very well. They just have to have that confidence that they can come out in the open with it. And that's what's going to help them and help all the others who are still shying away from coming out in the forefront. So yes, programs, I don't know whether training programs per se, but mentorship programs for sure can help a lot in getting them.
Definitely, I think there's a skill set, that we have, maybe sometimes, I think multitasking.
Yes.
When I've seen women, I think we're just much better at multitasking than men. Maybe their advantage is focus and ours is being ability to juggle 10 balls in the air. But that's something we've always had to do. It's an inherent skill. We have to manage home, we have to manage kids, we have to manage in-laws, we have to manage work. So we're used to juggling. And so it's a skill that we have. And it's part of that. And I think those are the kind of things that people need to probably recognize more, that there is there are strong skill sets here, there are strong skill sets there. But the second point that I was coming to, and, I think Kausalya said, that we need to maybe make space and place for women in the workplace. But I think that is a level of conditioning that we also need to change. We are always talking about how women need to have better space when they have kids. Maybe the fact that we never really had things like paternity leave makes it so much more a woman's role. Isn't that a question that we need to ask ourselves? Companies need to be also telling men, hey, take that time off, be at home with your kids. And maybe slowly that kind of change is what we need to see across our industry, so that role becomes more equal. Why is it that it's only the woman's role to sort of give up and be at home when there are kids? Why do we look at it like that?
Renuka, that was the whole intent, right? I was thinking equity is both become parents, right? It's not, and by implying that you would only index on one role holder, you're also implying that the primary responsibility of childcare is only with one parent.
Sorry, Kausalya, I'm going to just ask you to move a little bit to your right. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Better?
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
Okay. So that was the whole conversation, that, both become parents, and how do you actually communicate effectively that it is actually a joint responsibility to bring a child into the world and raise a family. So I think there are a lot of companies, including the Mahindra Group, which have done very progressive policies now on childbirth. It definitely, there is an angle of maternity and recovery and health, which is unique to us because that is the gender role. But there has been so much of private companies coming in and creating policies which are so progressive because childbirth, for example, which is a significant event in anyone's life, is a joint responsibility. And how do you communicate that is also important, that it doesn't get indexed so heavily on one side that it almost kind of orients that this is, you have that runway only because you're the primary child caregiver. And I think, Renuka, the imposter syndrome Garima mentioned, I think globally, and I was quite amazed to see even advanced countries, developed countries, it's not like women there are like completely bereft of the guilt or the imposter syndrome. I remember Indra Nui talking about it and how in a country which is so progressive, it was still a primary role that was ordained. And I think while I completely agree that all generations of women will have a role to play, I think this generation is pivotal from the point of view that there is a whole set of women who are now looking to come into the workplace as equal. The female labor force participation that we talk about is definitely on the uptick. We have a set of progressive policies. And I was also thinking, as much as training programs are required for women to enable us to speak up, to be present, to own our space, some training programs for men would also not go, it would not go wanting because it's also about acknowledging that when you're in a room, everyone has to be included in the conversation. And how do you create those kind of safe environments for people to speak up and to be heard? So some programs, maybe Garima, we can also run for the others, because sometimes I don't think people notice that they are not allowing a section of people to even speak up. It may be it's so unconsciously kind of embedded into the DNA that it needs also sensitization. This is actually what the behavior is coming up to.
That's true. I ask her, sorry, Garima, I'll just come back to you. I ask a lot of men because they'll watch my review and they'll say, oh, we went for this car watching your review. But when they walk into a shop floor, into a showroom or a dealership, they automatically look for the male salesperson. They don't look for, that is just conditioning. So you watch my review and I'm right, but she can't tell you about cars. Why? So these are I think the small fine-tuning conditioning that maybe we need to change, and as moms, probably that's also our responsibility to teach our kids, our sons, that, hey, the world is changing out there and these are the fine-tuned things that you need to also, let go of.
Just one little point on this, Renuka. I think if we are already at inflection point. Today I'm saying this again based on what I see both in the shop floors and in the engineering. If somebody has content, I'm telling you that if there is a female boss who knows her work, who knows her content in the automotive, men are more than happy to work with such bosses. Maybe it was a challenge a few years ago, but right now, I think we should just focus on gaining competence and gaining confidence. These are the key things. That's what we should go back and teach to our sons and daughters, and that will make the whole lot of difference. Sorry, I think somebody had a point.
Yeah, Garima was going to say.
I was, in fact, going to say exactly what Anju said, that it's all about content. It's really not about the gender. I mean, if you look at my board, I think I'm speaking the most. I will be asked to keep quiet. So it's about content, honestly. If you are talking sense, if you know what you're talking about, if your information you're bang on, then you will be heard. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. So even if a man is just blabbering and talking out of his hat, he will be asked to, maybe keep quiet for that matter. Also, as what you were talking about, I mean, people not buying cars from the women. I have a different experience, Renuka. We just started an all-women's outlet in Gujarat. And when I say all women's, from the security guard to the driver, to the sales consultant, to the team leader, to the peon, everybody's a woman. And, I've seen the customers, they're happy to be there. They feel comfortable. It's not that they feel that the women here will not know or they can't tell. the women know their job. They've been trained as much as the men have. They've got the same training and they're confident. And the customers are very, very happy. The customer
I'm glad.
satisfaction scores that stores are very, very good. So, things are changing.
I'm glad to know that. Yeah, Akshima.
Yeah, I think totally agreed with all the points. Things are changing, but I think 2 points that I wanted to highlight, which I felt we probably should discuss, is the safety. It's about safety at workplaces. One, which is, I think, a very well acknowledged barrier. And the other is even safety in mobility systems. Like, when I'm in an Uber or an auto rickshaw or walking, I think I know it's not so much linked to automotive sector, but I strongly feel that gender shapes mobility and mobility shapes gender. And it has a very critical role, like how are we designing our automotive systems, our mobility systems, to cater to the safety apprehensions and fears and perceptions of women that also make them sit at home. How can we really address them? And I think second thing, Renuka, I just wanted to kind of, you I think at some point mentioned technology and the biases. I also feel that we are at a very interesting inflection point overall in the automotive sector. It's no more the same automotive sector, which was, only and only ICE dominated. We are moving into a world which is electric, which is clean, which is connected. There is enough research to show that women care about environment, women care about climate, women care about sustainability far more than anybody else. And they will, and they are adopting clean mobility far more than men. So I also feel this is also to us now creating a level playing field for women to come in. And whether it is, in terms of innovation and in technology, whether it is in terms of, adoption and hence shaping the marketing strategies of how we position automotive products. So I think it's a very interesting time for us to kind of say, okay, we are not where we were 100 years or 50 years back. We are now, the whole ecosystem, the whole space, whole sector is changing. And let's have everyone looked at this from the same lens of equity. So I think this is very critical now when we start talking about automotive sector. We need to I mean, what Ola Electric has done, it's Ola Electric. It's not Ola ICE, which did that, new thinking. So I think to some extent, I feel the adoption of electric, of clean mobility will have a play in terms of women's role in automotive sector.
Great. Shrawani, I think you wanted to make a point.
Yeah, I wanted to add one point on what Kausalya mentioned on re-employment. We do see women take break in career due to various reasons, and I also see that there is a sustained focus by companies towards inclusion in most of the fields, and especially in Continental, there are multiple initiatives towards this, and one of it, which I would want to talk about, is the Launchpad initiative, which was launched to bring back women who had been on career breaks, and that is by providing on-job training and also mentorship, which was very well received, and it also helped multiple people. And again, one of our panelists just mentioned about the innovation part of the industry, where the industry is moving towards. And currently in the automotive industry, we do see that there is a lot of focus on software-defined vehicles and increase in software content. And this is also, I would say, one of the major attraction where more and more women can participate in this particular area. And this is definitely instrumental in shaping the future of technology industry, I would say.
I agree. I'm going to go back to a point which Akshima made about safety and, recognizing that women are in the industry. Did all of us know that until a couple of years ago, the crash test dummies that were made for crash tests were largely of male size and figure and shape. And, it was only after a woman came into that area and went into development, she said, hey, why is that the case? Because someone of a smaller frame wouldn't be as safe in that crash test. So yeah, I think, there are a lot of areas where it's changing. Now they have female, crash test dummies, etc. And, the crash tests are performed like that. I think another area safety, I think maybe we all work in large organizations and great offices, but there are some smaller places where hygiene, I think just proper clean loose for women is such a barrier for women coming into certain fields, especially on particular days of the month where they really need to be in a hygienic clean place to be able to go to the loo. I face that. I go out on the road a lot, and finding a clean loo across India is a massive challenge. It's changing. I'm happy to say that that's changing, and I think especially our government is doing a great job. I've been across highways where they've got loos that are being manned now every so many kilometers and cleaned. And I think I'm happy to see that change. But I think these are the small things that, within our own companies, we can, sort of enhance and see that this is made, simplified for women to come in and be there on the field. I think we had a discussion on it a while ago, and maybe last year also on this panel, that hygiene plays a big role in women coming out of the home and being able to be at work,
Yeah, absolutely. So, Renuka, I think again here also I see, like you said, government is doing their bit, and that's why you see better when you are on the road trips, but even organizations are focusing on it. And that's why, if you go back to, I think Akshima mentioned about women focusing on environmental friend. That's why this whole emerging trend of electrification, because even our designers or the automotive manufacturers, they are focusing because they know that women is a huge consumer segment. And that's why even in the design and the aesthetics aspect, they are far more cognizant of women, how women will think, rather than going by men perception of how should it be for women. They are hiring more women. They are taking the views of more women on the table, and that's why you see the height, the space in some cars just to keep the handbags, the aesthetics, even the color, both of two-wheelers and the cars. This is heavily driven by the fact that there is a huge women consumer segment who have the more buying power because of more education, more women are top graders. They are getting jobs all over in the service sector, especially. There is a very significant rise. So all of this has helped women break the glass ceiling, and in turn, automotive sector is cognizant of it in terms of designing, and organizations are also doing the needful to give that infrastructure that can help drive the women talent more and more.
Yeah, I agree. Like all of you have said, I think it's just a lot of years of conditioning and bias. Speaking to I think I was once asked to address the Femina Miss India group of people, and we did a day of driving, and all of them were a little apprehensive about getting into go-karts and driving. And I told them, I said, just get rid of this conditioning. What if we were to tell men, come on, you wear a sari, wear 6-inch heels and get into a car and drive? None of them would be able to do it as well as us, right? Because we're used to doing it. We've been doing it for years. So it's all a matter of conditioning is what I believe. Garima, you've got your hand up. Let me come back to you.
Yeah, I have a question to ask all of you. I mean, this is a fact, and this is what I want to put it out to you, that is it not a chicken and egg story? 25 years back, in a very popular Japanese factory, when I went, there was not a single toilet for women over there. And today, after 25 years, forget toilets for women, there is daycare for children of women. So that is the change that's happened in the same company. So why I'm saying it's a chicken and egg. So if women will be there, then provisions for women will be made. Or is it that first you make provision and then get the women? So I'm a little confused on that one. And I would really love to know, what's the right answer here.
Yeah, what are the changes? So what are the changes that you ladies have seen over the years in your industry, like Garima said?
Yeah, I think I can kick off, Garima, but I also want to add what Renuka said, wearing saris and dresses and trend driving. Don't forget the high heels. We also drive cars in high heels, sports shoes, flats. I think when you said multitasking, there is also this facet of women while driving. We can drive wearing anything, and I don't think our male counterparts can. So I think Garima, to your point, and when Renuka was also speaking, about highways, I would say forget highways. I work a lot with the government, with institutions, and I go into kind of cities and districts and state governments. I mean, I'm not right now. Even Delhi is not great, and it's a similar situation. I have to be really prepared if I have to be in a place in a government office. I'm talking about government office for about 2.5, 3 hours meeting. I have to really think about to be prepared mentally, what the toilet condition would be, because it's so horrible in many places. So you are like, can I be really there for 3 hours or not? What alternative do I make? So I think this is the reality of life. It's on highways. It's where we are going for meetings. I may have got the best toilets in my office, but I need to go out. I need to step out. Again, if you're traveling, what's happening on the train stations, bus stations, it is really discouraging. And it's something that I think will be very critical when we are talking about more on-field work for women. So making plush workspaces, definitely. And I think just very quickly, let others come in on the chicken and egg. I think toilet needs to come first, because it would encourage. It would, in EVs we ask whether charging infrastructure needs to come first or not. It's a chicken and egg and demand versus. I think in this case, very clearly, there have to be good toilets to give confidence to women that I can go to this work place. I can go in the field. Yeah.
Garima, I kind of concur, because sometimes not having that infrastructure in place up front is actually the greatest detriment to get the inclusion in. So it's always getting that infrastructure in, because with that you're also making a statement that you want the inclusion. So I still remember many years back when ramps were being put up across entrances and access was being given to, created, at least infrastructurally was being created. Somebody asked, do you have people who need ramps and are specially able? And the answer was that if I don't have the ramp, how are they ever going to get to my office? So it is always about infrastructure. It is also, I have realized, as we attract talent and we attract women talent, this is something that they're observing. They are looking at an organization, they are looking at an infrastructure and saying, is this friendly, and acknowledging what is required. Clean toilets, honestly, I think are gender agnostic, and it's such a hygiene, but it is something that is observed by people across. So to me, infrastructure comes first. It's also a clear statement of intent. And with that, I mean, you're lowering this barrier. Otherwise, we're just keeping the barriers high and saying, okay, once women come, maybe they will have an advocacy and a movement to create a clean toilet. But imagine that time between that and actually getting a clean toilet. So definitely infrastructure has to come, Garima, to answer your question.
Shuba, I think you were making a point earlier.
Yeah, I have a couple of points actually. I think we can address the toilet issue. I think most places today have separate women's toilet. When we talk about hygiene of toilets, it's more than just hygiene of women's toilets. It starts from schools, right? School toilets are not clean. So it's across the board, where it's not specific. It's not a specific problem for women. It's a problem for everybody. So it's a mindset and a culture change that's required in society. I think we're getting way better. There's lots more public toilets available, and it is getting better. But I think it's a journey. And I think as women who are already in the workplaces, I think as leaders, we should take the initiative to drive it. I don't think it's the infrastructure on physical toilets are available. It's only the cleaning. So that's not such a big problem to overcome. And I think that's certainly doable. You raised a point much earlier about when are we going to stop these discussions about women's issues and having these conversations. I really think, I think a lot of points were made about what are all the policy decisions that needed to be made. And Anju talked about how merit is the key differentiator. I'd like to add one further point. At the end of the day, people see success. There's nothing that will get more women on board as proving results. If women prove results in organizations get more comfortable in using women in these roles. So I think it is, I think women have to focus on delivering value to the organizations they work in, and create the path for the others to follow. So I think it's definitely building on. Of course, we need the policies and we need the talent, but all of this should be able to drive towards getting results. And then management will certainly take action to include them and leverage the power of the women in society.
I completely agree. And, Kausalya, I think you'll be happy to hear this. I was recently speaking to a set of young engineers at Mahindra. And one of the girls who's, she said, I've been through a variety of companies. And she said, the one thing that I love about being here is that the job is handed out to us based on merit, not because it's gender. And I think that comes from the top, from a team that's led well, where, the person is given their task or their job based on how well they do it or don't do it or whatever it is, rather than saying, oh, she's a girl. I remember when I hired my first female camera person. You see, camera people, they're mostly men in our domain, especially the automotive world. And when I hired the first female camera person, a lot of people had apprehensions because it's very physical as well. Will she be able to do it? I'm happy to say she's thriving. She's doing well. She did face a lot of bias where a lot of people were not ready to take her on shoots initially, but I think she's proved herself. And I think that's just it. We have to face those challenges that come our way. Sometimes we may have to work a little harder to prove ourselves than maybe our male counterparts because it's just accepted from them. But, all of us need to be those role models which say, okay, hey guys, we did it. We also faced a few challenges and there will be hiccups, but you can counter them, right? I think we've had a great discussion, but just to wrap it up, I'm going to ask each one of you to just come in and say, what's the one big change you'd like to see in the industry and which you think will make a big difference? So I'll start with you, Kausalya.
I think the industry is already there, but Renuka, I'd like to see an acceleration in our efforts to give access to talent who wants to be skilled and who wants to be educated and come into the workforce. As an industry, how do we accelerate the pace at which access is being provided to everyone so that everyone comes in with the right information and talent nurturement to be successful? So an acceleration there would be.
Yeah, Anju?
I think I'll repeat what I said. I would like organizations to start telling more clearly to women that they already have everything that is required to become successful in automotive sector. It's a sector that can give them long, fulfilling, and very enjoyable careers. They just have to remove that misconception. I also want to see a change in the mindset of women, not only from the infrastructure point of view of organizations. On a lighter note, they need to choose their husbands wisely. They need to really build that personal, strong support structure. They need to start believing in delegating. And that's it. I think I really want to see more and more of that genuine hunger and desire in women also, because I truly believe with what Kausalya just said, industry is already there. Industry is wholeheartedly welcoming and doing everything that is necessary to have more women talent.
I agree with Anju. I think the change that I would really like to see is women creating that equal space at home with their partners before they expect it from the industry, right? I mean, we need to realize that it's us that needs to make our partners realize. And if we can do that at home, they'll probably that will go into their workplaces as well. Shuba, I'm going to come to you.
Yeah, sure. So I think we need to have more women in roles that are not typically seen as roles for women. Beyond finance and HR, we need to see them in technology, in the shop floor, across all areas, not just restricted to certain lines. And for this, I think we need to have the support system, maybe additional tools that make it easier for women. For example, if there are physical limitations on what women can handle, maybe aiding tools or things that help make lifting easier or moving easier. So these are all things that organizations can do to be truly inclusive, where there are no roles that are saying, oh, these are better suited for women and those are better suited for men. I think if you provide the adjustments that are required in the ecosystem, I think somebody talked about the equity versus being equal. I think if you provide these little changes, it's like the handicap, right, in golf. So if you can provide that, then this could probably level the playing field, and we can see women across more roles broadly engaged in the organization.
Yeah. Garima? Garima, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry. So I kind of agree with what Kausalya and Anju both said. I think the industry has opened its arms. It's now for the women to run into them. It's that time which has come, and we have to now know that, yes, the industry is very welcoming. Besides that, one more thing that can happen is we need to talk about the success stories of women in this industry louder and more, so that all the women that who feel that they have a challenge can know that it's all right. Whatever you do, challenges will be there. That is how life is. Challenges are inherent to life. If you live, you will face challenges. Face them, deal with them, and come out with them. That's all I'd like to say.
Yeah, Akshima?
I think +1 to everything, and definitely to what Anju said, choose your life partners very, very wisely. That makes a lot of difference in terms of the confidence you have in terms of going out there. I think, but what Shuba said, I would love to see more women in leadership positions and far more success stories out there. It gives a lot of, I would say, a belief to women out there that if they've done it, we can also do it. So we need a lot of those success stories of women in leadership positions to inspire. Renuka, you are an inspiration for many of us to, look at driving as not something, it's driving from, home to work. It is about driving also for the pleasure of it. A lot of time people tell me, why don't you get a driver? You're so busy. I'm like, I actually enjoy my drive. I enjoy that time. So I think that is there. And lastly, one point, I think, yes, we've made a lot of progress, but just this notion of automotive products, mobility products by the men, for the men, of the men has to make a huge transition. It has to be, it has to be for everybody.
Thanks, Shrawani.
Yeah, I think like Anju and Kausalya also mentioned that the industry is always there, and we do have a lot of opportunities. And I want to say the women that it's okay to be ambitious, and it's for us to take that leap.
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure talking to all of you women. Thank you for sharing your time with us. I think you guys are the great role models, and we're happy to highlight you, and we hope a lot more women are watching this and they get inspired by this conversation and watching all of you. And like we said, hurdles will be there for everyone. We've just got to be sure in our own minds and counter this. And happy Women's Day to all of you as well. Thank you to all our viewers for watching.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks, Renuka. Bye, everyone.